takes a second, I guess. Hello, everybody, and we are live on YouTube. This is Live with Roxanne. I'm Roxanne Shelaby, your hostess, and we are featuring dancers of the Manapt Dancers Collective. And today I'm very excited to have the amazing and gorgeous Rania Bosonis, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right.
Very good. Very good.
With us. And we're going to have a chance to get to know her a little bit better. And, you know, if you guys out there who are watching have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to them throughout the interview. So welcome, Rania. I'm so happy to see you. I missed seeing you around town in Southern California. Now you're on the East.
No, I miss California. Roxanne, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me. It really means a lot. And I got my lucky Frida Kahlo mug. Right. So I'm feeling very positive about this. I'm a little nervous. I've done like, you know, radio or TV interviews just about like dance or fitness, but haven't really just spoke about myself or the community. And I'm very excited and grateful for the opportunity.
That's amazing to me that you have never like had this opportunity, and I'm so glad that we get this opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So why don't you start by telling us about your background? You know, what's your ethnic background? How did you start dancing? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm Greek and my mom's half Greek, and I mean, my father's full Greek, my mom's half Greek, so I'm like 3/4 Greek and 1/4 Swiss. And yeah, so I got freckles. I have all the Greek features, but I have freckles, like of all things. So, I grew up in a very strict Greek Orthodox household. Like the church was our community. Like we went to church every Sunday and all the church events. Like I lived a very sheltered life. And I was a very shy kid, very shy. Like it was hard for me to like ask the teacher if I could go to the bathroom in the middle of the class. Very shy. So when I was 8 years old, it was Easter Sunday. We went to a Greek restaurant and there was this belly dancer and she was unbelievable. She was so pretty and her costume, it was a baby blue costume and it was just all beads. And she was doing this drum solo and I'd never seen anything like that. Like her body was like a drum set, like all these different parts moving, you know, and I was just, you know, my jaw dropped and I was starstruck. And my father was upset that they had a belly dancer on a religious holiday. So he said,
I was about to say, they had a dancer on Easter Sunday, okay.
Yeah, a dancer and a band. And he said, don't look. So you tell an 8-year-old, don't look, what are they gonna do?
Right.
You know, so I was in love, like I wanted to be a belly dancer ever since. And then when I was 13, I opened a phone book because back then we had phone books. And I found Serena's School of Middle Eastern Dance. And I went on, I could only go on Saturdays because I had to take the train into the city. And I would just take like the beginner, they would be like 2 beginner classes and then a couple of intermediates and an advanced class. And I would just stay for the day and I would tell the teachers like, I'm not intermediate yet, or I'm not advanced yet, but can I just hang out in the back? Because they drove all the way down. And that's how I got started. I couldn't tell my parents. I would just, you know, tell them I was going to the library. And I took lessons for years before I ever did a show. I think it was like 5 or 6 years of studying before I did it like a show. And because I was shy, I was too shy to dance in front of people, but Serena had told us that you cannot perform until you perform for the class. And you should be dancing at least 2 years before you think of performing. And I remember there were dancers who, you know, her students who were ready to perform and they would perform for us. We'd all sit and, you know, and they would do their show for us before they were ready to go out. And I really thought that's how everyone did it.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that the way it should be? Like you said.
Well, yeah, I mean, any other dance form, maybe you don't take 6 weeks of ballet and say, I'm a ballerina, tip me, you know.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Do you remember who that dancer you saw was in the blue that first time when you were 8 years old?
I have no idea who she was. She was so pretty. So the funny thing is, in all my years of dancing, and buying costumes and making costumes. I never owned a baby blue costume because like nothing in my mind ever matched the impression of that was the archetypical, the ultimate costume, or something, because it was the first one I'd seen. I'd seen some dancers at Greek restaurants, but not quite that stunning and glittery. And, you know, she had the blue eyeshadow.
Those were the days, right?
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to that. I think being a child and seeing a belly dancer and idolizing them, it's like nothing can ever compare to what that image in your head is. But how beautiful! Like what an amazing story. And I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of the dancers from the Manat region, and you know, being Greek, you're definitely part of that. A lot of us share that we couldn't tell our parents we were dancing, or we had to dance in secret. And I don't know, I think of the Greeks being more evolved. And, you know, you always think of like, you know, Greeks as part of history, but it turns out they're just as, what's the word? Orthodox, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I mean,
know, conservative as other parts of the Middle East.
people nowadays think, well, Greece is part of Europe. All right, so they made it into the European Union. But, you know,
Right.
look at, if you go to Egypt, you see all kinds of Greek architecture.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, so Greek, Egypt, and Persia were conquering each other, and Turkey were conquering each other all the time. We were enslaved by the Turks for 400 years. So we share, I mean, the food, the culture,
Oh,
the clothing. I mean, we can see differences, but, you know, if you look overall, you can say, I can see how they're kind of the same. You know, look at the Lebanese line dancing and Greek line dancing, and just there's so much overlap.
right. And which is why it's so important that the Greek belly dancers are included in this group, or this category that we now call the Manat dancers, right? So Middle East, North Africa, the H for Hellas, meaning Greece,
Right.
and Turkey, because we do share so much culturally, historically, food, dancing. Uh, you know, when I was growing up at my dad's club in Anaheim, the Cascades, he only had Arab for a while. He had Arabic nights on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And then there was this amazingly beautiful Greek woman who used to always come. And she's like that person that when I think back as a child, I idolized, because she was so beautiful. You know, Anastasia. And she was like you. She had long, dark hair, and she was just so beautiful. And I always thought, I want to be like her when I grow up, you know? And so she took over a couple of the nights, like Tuesday and Wednesday, to do Greek nights. So we'd have Greek music. They brought in a Greek chef, and so yeah, so those worlds I feel like are often just very intertwined, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so you started with Serena, which is pretty amazing because she is
Legend.
a legend. Yeah, and if you're out there and you don't know who Serena is, get on Google and start doing some research, because she's really, like you said, a legend in our dance form.
Yeah.
And so then what happened? This was back east, and then you ended up somehow in California.
Well, yeah, I had moved from New York to Connecticut, and then I was still going back to New York. And then I found someone in the phone book in Connecticut.
Hmm.
And I called and said, can I have lessons? And she said, yeah, but you have to audition for me. So I went there and I was all nervous and I auditioned for her. And then she goes, you know what? I have a show this Saturday. Can you do it? And I'm like, I've never performed before. I don't have a costume. I don't have anything. She goes, oh, my daughter's your size and she's a belly dancer and she's selling some costumes. So you can do the show. You're just going to buy a costume for my daughter. I ended up being like best friends with her daughter, and we performed together. But those first few shows, I hope nobody remembers them, you know, but it was somebody forcing me into performing. that I wouldn't have done it on my own. I really just didn't have the confidence. And through dance and through performing, and it was good that I had like a partner, it was her daughter. I didn't feel like I was alone. We were doing it together, and I could see that I was in step with her, etc. So I gradually, it took about 10 years for me to get comfortable just going out and being a performer or soloist on my own. So I credit belly dance with overcoming the shyness that probably would have been debilitating otherwise. I mean, it literally changed my life. And I met people that I'm still friends with, 30 years later. It just opened up a whole new world and changed my life. And I moved to California and I entered the Belly Dance for the Universe competition and I won. And it was huge because I had seen that on the news, like back east, you would see on the evening news, the mainstream CBS, ABC, NBC, whatever evening news, before there was cable TV and all that fancy stuff. When there was only 7 or 9 channels, they would say, and there was a belly dancer of the universe competition in California, and they would show a clip of the winner, and then that was me. So I think in California, people take that competition for granted, but it was the first. Yeah, and the only one for many years, and it got worldwide acclaim.
That's so interesting because you're right. I was just thinking that, being a local Southern California person, we just assume like, oh, it's just kind of a local thing. But really, it does have a global reach. And
there are so many places in the United States, or I'm guessing other places, where it was hard to come by belly dance teachers. You had to make your own costumes. You had to order music from online, or it was back then before YouTube, before live streaming, before there were many festivals. There were only a few events that were big enough to warrant traveling out of state to.
Oh, for sure.
We heard about these things happening in far off land. Oh wow, in California you could go and there's a competition, so that was huge for me to have won that. It meant a lot. It changed my personality, made me feel like I accomplished something. And I loved Middle Eastern dance so much. To have accomplished something in this hobby that I pursued with so much passion, just, I don't know, it meant a lot.
And how lucky were we that there were no cell phone videos like when we first started dancing? You mentioned, thank God there were no video. Like, you need to dance for a while without that like critical, tearing yourself apart. Before anybody should be on video. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I remember that in practice or in class, I could keep my hands well positioned, but when I performed, I would be focusing so much on like the hips or like what people are doing. I would get this like claw thing going. So it took a few years to just really get a sense of being able to command an audience and just feel comfortable. And eventually, I got so comfortable that I looked to performing as, there's a whole just really spiritual, emotional release kind of aspect to dance in general, not just Middle Eastern dance, but it got to the point where if I had a terrible day, no matter what happened, if I had a show that night, it was like the great equalizer, that whatever I had gone through would be expelled, like some sort of exorcist ritual. Like dancing was an emotional release. It kept me balanced. There was a time my mom had a courageous battle against cancer, but towards the end, and she lived in Ohio. I was in graduate school in California, so I had to travel to Ohio, and then I would come back, take my classes, change my suitcase, and go back and forth. And that went on for about 9 months. And I had been on airplanes, sleeping in hotels, sitting in the hospital, in the hospice, and everything. And I had forgotten what my body felt like. It was just this sort of sore, achy, stiff thing that I carried around. And Zahra Zuhair had a monthly showcase, and she would feature someone, and I was scheduled to perform. And I thought to myself, can I do this? Because I hadn't danced in a while, and it was to live music. And I remember stepping out on the stage. I have no recollection of what I did. I just remember feeling that I was flying. I couldn't feel my feet touch the ground. I felt like all this, you know, when someone has cancer, you're grieving for them while they're still alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see the end, you're already feeling the loss. And I just remember all this release. And suddenly I was light again, and my body felt light and agile again. And that's another gift that the dance gives us.
You're so right about that.
We have a community where we can engage with other people. We meet lifelong friends that have the same interests, but there's this emotional element to dancing that is a true gift.
Absolutely. And do you think that the live music played a part in that as well?
Absolutely. So many of my early shows were to live bands. You know, in Connecticut, I danced for the Lebanese Cultural Society and the Turkish Cultural Society. And the band would say, what do you want, an entrance, a taksim, shiftatali, a drum? Okay, that sounds great. Yeah. And it teaches you those skills, those improvisational skills come in handy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have so many questions to ask you. I'm trying to figure out what direction we're going. So as a person of Greek heritage and a belly dancer, we hear this talk about Greek belly dance. Do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, do you do Greek belly dance? Do you do all kinds of belly dance? Is it different? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is different. So when I was growing up in the 70s, there were Greek belly dancers at all the festivals, and the Greek festivals are church festivals. I mean, that's how accepted it was, right? And then by the mid 80s, you stopped seeing them. And I would ask people like, how come there aren't any Greek belly dancers around? And they would say, well, there's this attitude now that when we were occupied by the Turks, they were taking our best women to perform in the harems. So the attitude kind of changed. Like, I wasn't seeing that much, but there was a belly dancer in, I think she was in Ohio, and her nickname was Little Package of Dynamite. There was like a Greek belly dance community, and she had some videos and an album. I think I still have the album, the LP.
I'd love to see who she is.
Yeah, I looked on YouTube and couldn't find anything. If I find something, I will share it with the group and put it on Facebook. But you know, the Greek music can be very fast. So there's this tendency for like very fast hip work and layering it to keep up with the bouzouki, the tenor guitar, and the fast like trilly sound. You would layer a lot of shimmies over the traveling steps, which is a signature of Greek dancing. And the arms didn't move that much. It was more of a focus on the shimmying and keeping up with the rhythm. I'll try to find a video.
Is there a particular style of belly dance that you relate to best, or that you prefer to dance?
To me, it's all about the music. So if I hear Egyptian music, Egyptian dance, it's what fits the music. If I hear, Turkish music, 9/8 or something, I think of the moves that go with that music. Same for Persian, folkloric, Saidi. It's always been what goes with the music, what goes with that song. So
that's
I don't have a preference, though.
You don't have a preference. There's not something that you feel this is my default. Like, if I just want to get up and dance and put some music on, I'm gonna do this.
I had been doing Greek Turkish style for many years, and then when Ibram Farah started, he taught some workshops in New York and in Boston. I started learning Egyptian. I think after so many years, those Greek/Turkish and Egyptian became like my go-to. Yeah, I would say those two.
Ibrahim Farah, another legend. If you don't know, find out. Sorry, I'm doing technological stuff over here, so if I'm looking around. So it's funny because several dancers, not even several, quite a few dancers, when I started publicizing this interview with you, all said, you know, I found this belly dance like fitness video with Rania in like some store, and that's how I started dancing. And so quite a few dancers started dancing, learning from you in your videos. So I'd love to hear about this whole video situation. You know, tell us all about it.
Sure, yeah, big topic, and a lot of emotions there.
Mm.
When I moved to California, and I won the competition, and there were just more places to dance in California. I became a working dancer. I was teaching 2 or 3 nights a week, and I was performing 2 or 3 nights a week. And it got me in really good shape aerobically. I had been a fitness instructor since high school. I had the opportunity to take college classes and get high school credit. And the school said, well, what are you going to do about physical education? And right near the college, there was Elaine Powers Fitness Salon, and I became certified, and they tracked my attendance, and I handed that in, and I got the PE credit. So I had been, and I always thought, it's something I can fall back on if I need extra work or something. So I kept renewing my certifications. I got AFA and ACE and Nesta certifications. So I said, well, let me make a fitness video, because people used to ask me, what do you do to stay in shape? And I'm like, I just freaking belly dance like every day, and I'm in shape, So I thought, let me make a fitness video, and I self-produced it. It cost me just under $10,000, and I got distribution in mainland China, in Russia, and in a small chain of stores in the South, like Tennessee, Alabama. And then a producer found them, and he had produced the Vina and Nina videos. And he said, I'd like to invite you to audition for this. We're doing another round of them. And they had already picked the titles. One was going to be more like a hip hop style fused with belly dance. One was going to be like a rhythm and blues. One was going to be full on cardio. They had already chosen the titles. So I had several auditions with them, and I got the gig. And then I thought, again, it was just like winning the competition. Like, wow, I'm so passionate about this art form, and I'm a working dancer now. And then I achieved this this success, and I was getting emails from people that told me they lost 50, 60 pounds just doing the videos. I would get a lot of email from young girls with anorexia, that part of the treatment for anorexia, they have to choose a fitness role model that is not a starved look. They have to choose a healthy body image, and that's part of their treatment. So, and they would ask me like, well, what's your diet? And I'm saying, I don't diet, I feed my body. I exercise, but I give my body all the nutrients it needs and all the carbs it needs to burn for energy. Like, you have to feed your body, otherwise it'll fail. So there was all this great stuff. Like there were people that never heard of belly dance. There was no YouTube. There was no Amazon, right? So it wasn't easy to find out about belly dance if you didn't know someone or just happened to come across a place that had a dancer. And suddenly you could be in Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, and see belly dance, and it was fitness. It was
I-
under the label, the genre of fitness. So it was suddenly acceptable and wholesome. It didn't have that, some people have that Hollywood image of a belly dancer as wearing something risque and moving seductively. And there I am bouncing around going, hey, cardio shimmy, So, and then suddenly you saw belly dance fitness everywhere. People
yeah,
were teaching at gyms, at, YMCAs, etc. So I felt really happy about that. I had opportunities to travel. But the flip side was, um, there was also a backlash from the community. And I remember being on these forums like tribe.net and, all those
right.
bulletin board type sites.
Facebook, yeah.
Right. And then suddenly like people were bashing me, and then YouTube came out. There were people posting my videos without my permission.
Right.
And monetizing them. There were people, 1 million hits on a video, and they're making the money on it. And I didn't own the videos, so if I complained to YouTube, they just disregarded me because I wasn't the owner. But the comments were what today we would consider cyberbullying. But there wasn't enough social media back then for us to even realize there's this whole new emerging negative trend of cyberbullying. But there was Rania. Why did they choose Rania? Nobody knows who she is. Why didn't they choose my teacher? Why didn't they choose this person? Rania doesn't know how to do a hip drop. And these videos are too beginner. Well, that's the whole purpose, was to make the most basic thing to share it with the general population. In fact, before I filmed the videos, I had to go before a room full of people that worked at the video company, from the executives to the people in the art department. And I had to lead them through the steps. The steps had to be so basic that someone who'd never done belly dance before could do the steps on the first time. That's how basic they had to be in order to have that mass market appeal. And if there was a move that was too difficult, we had to eliminate it. And then there I was being criticized, like, oh, this isn't real belly dance. It's not advanced enough. It was like, no matter what I did, it was going to be wrong. And then I would go to events, and it used to be that going to a belly dance event was like going to a party. And then suddenly I felt like I had to watch my back. There were people coming up to me and acting like my best friend. And I know they had just been bashing me on social media the week before. And I didn't know how to orient myself. I started to shut down. I would get very quiet. I couldn't just have a conversation at a public event. I had to go through the filter of, is this person my friend? Or, do they really like me? Or are they one of the people that's been cyberbullying me? And then I got the reputation for being a diva. They thought I was being stuck up, when really I was an originally shy person, was starting to blossom and come out of my shell. And then I went right back into my shell. And it took a long time. It took about 10 years for me to I stopped promoting myself. I took down my website. I stopped having regular gigs.
Wow.
I finished my master's degree and worked full time, and I kept belly dance part time. And I said, I'm going to make sure that belly dance never loses the initial joy and transformation that it had for me before. There were people showing up at my gigs telling the club owners. One person printed out the YouTube comment, Rania doesn't know how to do a hip drop, and showed the club owner, see, Rania doesn't know how to do a hip drop. You should be hiring me. And it's like, get out of here. Like, people call and ask for her when they make reservations. Like, I don't care what some YouTube person said. That's how bad it was. There were people actively trying to take away my gigs. I have cyber stalkers, and people pretending to be me. But anyway, that's next topic. Don't lose that thought.
I was going to say we were gonna talk about that as well.
Yeah, but I cut back on the professional dancing and said, if someone invites me, I will go. I still dance, I still teach, I still perform, I still make costumes, but I'm never gonna feel that I'm in that cutthroat situation. I'm not gonna compete for a gig. If someone wants it, they can have it. If someone invites me, I'll show up, and that joy will always be there. And once I made that decision, I'm in love with the dance again, and it's this wonderful thing in my life. I still get excited about any little show. It doesn't matter if it's a big venue or a tiny restaurant or somebody's little hafla. I have that same joy that I had 20 years ago.
I have so many feelings about this. And I don't know, I don't want to make it about me, but I'm happy to hear that you made that decision to protect yourself. Excuse me. But not only to protect yourself, but to protect the dance for you. And I know so many dancers who go through, similar types of things and then end up just, leaving the dance. And, myself included, I'm always contemplating just giving it all up.
Please don't.
But it's true. I need your fitness
Here's
video.
that point. Don't give up.
But yeah, but I think that making that choice for me as well, like for me, it's about the dance, regardless of the gig. I'm not going to fight for gigs as well. I'm going to do what fulfills me artistically. And that's a really freeing thing. And I know that a lot of dancers don't have that opportunity yet. But I hope that they do because, being a working dancer and, living off of gigs is a tough thing, and you have to do what is right for show business, which is a different situation. But I think at the same time, in your case, it's a bummer that you had to give up that career, the career part of it, in order to continue to enjoy the dance. Do you miss it? Do you regret your decision?
I'd never gave it up completely. I just scaled back. I just, for a solid decade, I just did about 3 to 4 international trips per year versus trying to make sure I had one per month to
right
to have food on the table. And I didn't have the weekly gigs, but not everyone, but a lot of dancers in LA and Orange County knew me as the one they could call if they needed a last minute replacement. So I was still dancing regularly, probably once a week, but I wasn't tied to a schedule. It was just very freeing. The only downside was that there were times when it was difficult to work full time. Sometimes the 9-to-5 job had demands like overtime. And if they coincided with me trying to get ready for an event, I would show up at the event, like my back would be out, or I would say, all right, I came up with the choreography, but I didn't have time to practice it. So we're going to kind of memorize it together. There were times I felt the effects on the dance career of it not being a full-time career, but I never gave it up completely. I just kept it to where it was still this joyous, amazing, transformational opportunity for me.
And you're happy with it in the current state that it's in?
Yeah.
For you. Okay, that's good. We were gonna also talk about the belly dance superstars and what goes on, what goes along with that, which is bittersweet.
Yeah. So there was a scout, and she was finding, the way they presented to me was they were finding the rising stars, and they wanted to make a CD because Miles Copeland had that label that he was licensing the Arabic music, so the Arabic artists were getting paid for their record sales in the United States. Where before him, they were bootlegging Hakeem and all these other Arabic musicians. So he just wanted to make a CD and market it to belly dancers, saying, here are the rising stars in the US, and these are just, each person picked 2 songs. And we did our first 2 shows at the House of Blues in Orange County and the House of Blues in LA. And it was just to promote the CD. And then the House of Blues went up to Miles and said, hey, we've never been this busy on a Tuesday night. Why don't you tour all the House of Blues across the country? And he said, we'll split it with you, whatever. And he's like, why should I split it? I'll do my own tour, right? So that became the tour and the superstars. The only thing well, first off, there was the name, the Superstars, that, that threw people off. Why did they pick them? So-and-so, I've never heard of before. She's not a superstar, she's new, whatever. That was the name they picked. It was, but they really enlisted us as the rising stars. These are the new faces, or whatever. So the name put people off. There was a lot of bad talk about who deserved to be in there and who didn't. And then when the tours started to emerge, there was the attitude that just having belly dance wasn't enough. If we didn't infuse ballet, it wouldn't be a good show. And that was kind of like a dagger in the heart for me, because it was as if to say, well, the authentic dance needs to be fixed in order to be presentable. I get it that the troupe numbers had to be in sync, but that's kind of opposite of what the dance actually is. And there's so much improvisation. I mean, for 5,000 years, it was musicians spontaneously drumming and playing music, and dancers spontaneously getting up. And audiences love seeing this interaction, this thing happening, a performance becoming visualized right before your eyes. It's happening right in the moment. It's not some, here's the 100th time this dancer is doing this exact same sequence of steps. And that was gone. And the first night I was scheduled to do a drum solo with Isam, we snuck off to an Egyptian nightclub the night before, and we totally improvised, just like the old days, and it was great. And Isam came back and told the director, I'm looking forward to my drum solo with Rania tonight. We've been improvising, and it was really working. And next thing you know, I was cut. And I never had a drum solo with the Superstars, because you might improvise. There's no improvisation allowed. Now, I understand in ballet, no improvisation, but to suddenly say that we're going to change Middle Eastern dance, it was hard for me. It was hard. Like a little flavor of the dance was lost, and the only redeeming factor was the soloists that kept it alive,
Yeah. I was around for all that, and kind of witnessed it all happening. And I know that there was a lot of hard feelings in the dance community, because I think, I don't know, looking back on it now and listening to you talk about it, we only had the belly dance community. There was no mainstream belly dance. So that was like the first time that belly dance was being taken mainstream. I mean, Lollapalooza and all of those things, right? And I think as a dance community, we just didn't know what to do, like, or how to take it. It was like, they're calling them superstars. Well, in our community, we consider certain people to be superstars. And as you said, a lot of you were rising stars. And so I think there was, I understand the promotional aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to say, come see the rising stars of belly dance. Like, that doesn't sell, right?
Right.
Belly dance superstars sells. And so when you're on tour around the country in Kansas and wherever else, dancing to a completely mainstream audience, it's a whole different ball game. So
Miles had to take. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying Miles had to, him and his crew had to call up venues across the country and eventually across the world and say, hey, we have this show. It's never been done before. Do you want to book it? Do you think anyone would have booked it if they said, this is the up and coming belly dancers?
Yeah.
It was just a name to get the tour, the kind of response required to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or misconception in our dance form about the difference between show business and art, or dancing for the love of dance and show business. They're two different things. And a lot of times, in mainstream show business, it doesn't include everybody. It doesn't the name is important and all of those things in order to sell. I think that there's been one of the positive things that came out of Belly Dance Superstars is how many dancers came to belly dance because of Belly Dance Superstars. They saw the show or they saw the DVD or, you know, any one of the many things that you guys did. And at least it opened the door to them. It brought them in to the dance form and many people went on to, study with other people and become their own, their own artist. Do you feel like, well, what's the positive outcome for you?
I agree, and I'll take it a step further. I think YouTube was just emerging when just after the first BDSS tour. But prior to that, if you hadn't come across Middle Eastern dance in the United States, if you hadn't just happened upon a Greek restaurant or a Middle Eastern nightclub, your impression of belly dance might be one of those awful Hollywood, highly sexualized, no talent representations of dance. I remember in the 70s and 80s telling people, I study belly dance, I'm a belly dancer. And they're like, belly dance, isn't that like stripping?
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got, Vina and Nina and my videos out on the shelves, and it's wholesome and it's fitness and it's good for you. And you've got the belly dance superstars showing this polished, classy representation with musicians and all different styles of dance, saying this is not what you thought it was. This is something not Hollywood. This is the real dance, and we're bringing it to you.
That's extremely important as well. And we need different forms of presenting our dance to the world. This is one form, and it was successful, and it's not the only. I think people get really like, it has to be this. Well, that's one thing. We did that and that worked, but there are other ways. And I think that the important thing is that, like I mentioned already, the belly dance superstars paved the way, opened the road for a lot of artists that would not otherwise have gotten any exposure. So thank you for that. So you're back on the East Coast now, and what are you working on dance-wise these days?
I have Zoom classes. I'm working on another fitness program.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I teamed up with another dancer here, and we're putting together a little duet.
Oh, great.
It's just like the old days, like, oh, what color do you want to wear? How about turquoise? Okay. So just
Those
still
are the best things. Those are the best things about our dance form, that camaraderie with the dancers and
yeah.
all that good stuff. Do you have a website now, or how do we find out about, your classes, what you're doing?
Yeah, I had taken down the website a couple of years ago. I still have the domain name, and the website's there. I can turn it back on again. Having that much on the internet when you're looking for a day job can be disadvantageous.
Mm-hmm.
HR departments frown on exposed midriffs and cleavage. So I took it down, I think, when I was looking for a job before I moved out here. And I just haven't put it back up. I've been meaning to put it back up and update it and so on. Probably within the next year, it'll be back up. And
good. And you're on social media. Is your information, like your class information, and like how does a person who's watching this that says, I want to study with Rania, how do we get in touch with you?
yeah, honestly, I haven't been promoting myself. If somebody emails me or Facebook messages me and says, hey, can you do privates? I'm getting ready for a show or competition, whatever, then I just do it. But I haven't like put anything out there. I've just been
Do
If
your
somebody
best.
wants it, they'll ask. If not, I'm not going to push. But I know that, message me on Facebook, but the social media is an important topic because back in 2006, some people emailed me and said, "Are you okay? You know, I've been talking to you on MySpace and it just doesn't sound like you." And I go, "I don't have a MySpace account." So I go
Well,
on MySpace and there's this person, they had taken all these photos from my website. They had an account called Rania Basonis. They had my age totally wrong. They thought I was much younger. Thank you. And they were talking to people and they had like hundreds of followers. This person was booking workshops. People thought it was me, and then she would get off the plane and they would realize it was a crazy person that just said, "I want to be her, and if I just assume her identity, I can be her." And then that started me having to, someone would want to hire me for a workshop and they'd say, "People are saying it's not going to be the real Rania. Can you make a video saying, this is me, I'm Rania, I'm going to be in Mexico City on this day," whatever. So I had to start making videos saying, this is really me, I'm going to be here. Because people lost their money from this one person. And then other people were ripping off, creating, and just recently, as a few months ago, there were Facebook sites pretending to be me, Instagram pretending to be me. There was a guy telling dancers, "Oh, I'm having a troupe, you have to send me videos of yourself dancing." Some pervert pretending to be me to get sexy videos in his inbox.
wow.
So please, I have an Instagram account with no photos or anything. It's strictly there for the purpose of complaining to Instagram when someone creates an imposter account.
I wondered because I kept trying to tag you on Instagram, and then, there was no Instagram.
Yeah, so there's
Well,
Facebook, and that's where I'm at right now. I didn't want to have a bunch of different channels because then it would be more things to hunt down. And I don't know why, if it's more than just me that this happens to, or I was an easy target for that sort of thing. But please, before you converse with me, make sure it's me.
yeah, you have to do lots of like lives and stories with, you live so people know it's really you. I mean, I knew that people were impersonating you, and I don't think it doesn't happen to me. It doesn't happen to a lot of people, but we don't all look like Rania, and we're not all famous with, you know, fitness videos around the world and so on and so forth. But I didn't know people were like a person was impersonating you to the point of booking workshops. That's crazy. Is it, I mean, later you have to, is it someone I would know?
I never got to find out who it was. I never
Oh,
even saw a picture. I just heard, after that person showed up, got off the plane, they could tell it wasn't me because they had seen my pictures and my videos. The person didn't look like me. They
right.
just somehow thought they could pull the wool over everyone's eyes. I heard about it after it happened, but nobody sent me a photo of the person or found out their real name.
That is crazy. That is totally crazy. And what a lot of work that must be for you to have to like keep up on things and fight all the imposters, you know?
Yeah, it took 3 months to get MySpace to take that page down. And I had, a team of friends complaining every day, like, "Please take this down, please take this down." It took 3 months.
What a drag. On that note, we have a question in the YouTube chat, and thank you guys who are here joining us live. We appreciate it. Continue to post your questions. So Lori is asking, would you have any advice for belly dancers making simple videos to share like on YouTube, um, as far as like camera, lighting, costume, etc.? Great question, by the way.
Yeah. Some mistakes I learned early on were that, the really good lighting is very hot, and make sure that you don't see sweat in your costume. Wear a color, like wear black or some spandexy type fabric that doesn't show your sweat, because you'll sweat. If you have enough light to look good, you're gonna sweat, right?
That's interesting. I had never thought about that.
Yeah. Um, I didn't have the opportunity to really rehearse. They weren't home videos, they were production companies, they were union. You had X amount of time. We shot 4 videos in 4 days, 4 videos in 2 days, and then the third day was all the performances and the bonus footage. And then the person whose music I was going to use pulled a stunt and tried to extort more money out of the producer the night before. And the producer refused to use their music and handed me a bunch of CD. They went to Hollywood Music and said, can we license some of your music? Thank you, Maher. He said, yes. He just gave us a stack of CDs and said, let us know which ones you use. But I was improvising, and that was the hard thing to that's permanent. Once you make a video and release it, it's permanent. So if you have the opportunity to fine tune your piece and get it down to where you feel like, hey, I want, this is good enough to be permanently on record, I feel good about this, then do that.
That's really good advice. And the lighting, you know, me today being a great example of not good lighting. And it's funny because I've been doing these interviews in the evenings, on Friday evenings. And today is the first time I'm doing it. It's, you know, 10 a.m., almost 11 a.m. here on the West Coast. And I didn't test out my lighting. And so what worked for me in the evening with windows and so on and so forth is not working for me right now. And I keep moving my camera and I keep trying to adjust the thing, and I just have to accept that I look crazy because the lighting's bad. So take it from me and take it from Rania, work on the lighting.
Yeah, so I have this little LED ring light now, and you can see it's not enough. I'm a little bit dark. It's not enough to shoot a video. The really good video lights are 1,000 watts tungsten lights, and they get hot, but they light up a whole room. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. So lighting and rehearsing, you know.
And make sure your sweat doesn't show. I had like booty sweat and, you know, yeah.
So that would be also like rehearsing your costume, and not only just for video, but for shows. And I think something that dancers take for granted a lot, like, I got a new costume, I'm going to wear it right now and get on the stage. And then there's, you know, you learn things from being on stage, like, oops, you know. So
Yeah.
practice in your costume, know your music. And it sounds like, you know, produce your own stuff is probably one of the things I'm hearing from you, because
Yeah, I mean, nowadays you can. Nowadays there's YouTube. You can self-produce something and put it on Amazon, and they'll even print it on a CD, on a DVD for you. You don't even need a physical DVD anymore. You can just, you know, sell it down for download. If you have the opportunity to self-produce and really come up with a product that you feel good about, do it. I didn't have that opportunity. I had to show up, and, you know, things would go wrong. There was, on the set, they use this like pergo flooring, and they just take it apart and put it back together the next time there's a show that has to have a production that has to have a wood floor. Right. Well, there were so many like splinters on the floor that our feet were bleeding.
Oh no.
You know, so anyway, and then I said, can you put tape over these splinters? And they're like, well, no, we're afraid the tape will show. And I'm like, well, what about the blood? The blood will show more than the tape. Like, put the tape down. Yeah, there's all kinds of things. If you show up on a set and expect to have a finished product in a couple of hours, it's way better to do it. Take your time and do it right.
And all those people out there that are, you know, posting negative stuff, they don't know what goes on behind the scenes and all the things that affect, you know, a performance or a production. So, you know, everybody just have a little compassion. Anyway.
When we shot the performances for the DVDs, I invited other dancers to come and show like Turkish style, Persian style, Egyptian style. But in order to film it, we only had enough time that everyone had one chance to run through their song. So first off, I was improvising. And second off, a dancer had put down her suitcase on my wings and broke my wings.
Oh.
And I don't think she realized it, but I went to go grab my wings they said, all right, Rania, we're ready. And then it was like this broken wing thing. And that wing performance almost never happened. And I remembered I had some wooden dowels in my trunk that I kept for when I teach cane. In case someone didn't have a cane, I have some like wooden dowels. And I stuck them into the wings and I stapled them. And that's how I did that wing dance.
Wow.
But yeah, all kinds of stuff happens on set. That, you think it's going to be smooth, and it's your ability to adapt and improvise is what will prevail.
And this is a question I need to add to my list of questions, because I haven't been a gigging dancer in like 10 years. Like, I produce my own stuff, and I don't dance in parties and stuff like that anymore. I still have a cane and veils in the trunk of my car. Just because I was always like, you show up somewhere just in case, someone calls you for a gig. I got
I still have a sword in my trunk.
That should be my next question. What are you carrying around in the trunk of your car?
Yep, I have a sword and a cane. I have a gym bag.
Yeah.
We haven't been to the gym in over a year because of COVID, but I still have a gym bag and I still have the sword and cane.
That's hilarious. Now, you said you're working on another fitness video, which I can't wait for.
It's not a video, it's a program.
A program.
The teaching program because the videos were just like, here's a workout, follow along. This is more of like a how to become a fitness instructor, what moves work, what muscle groups.
Oh, wow.
What moves to put into what combinations to have a well-rounded workout.
That's so important. I can't wait for that. I really need that, because what, aside from this fitness program that you're putting together, what's your mission, or what is your vision for yourself as an artist? Like, what do you hope to accomplish?
I feel like the videos I did were great, but again, I was really limited in what I could do and how well I could prepare for them. I would like to put something out there that I actually, like the advice I just gave, like come up with your own thing and self-produce it and make it what you would like it to be. I haven't done that yet. I haven't come up with something that really reflects my artistic vision or my choreography or whatever. So, and it's hard to do that when you work full time. And I keep buying houses that need work. You may have seen my little repair stuff on social media. So it's hard to find the time to come up with the production on your own, but I would like to follow my own advice and do that. And just before I get too old, I'm getting gray. It's, the decline is happening. I have to make that happen soon.
I'm with you on that one. And I just did my hair a little while ago, and now I'm realizing they're popping out. So.
Oh yeah, I sprayed my roots with that spray, brown spray.
So it's a losing battle.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something about what you just. Oh, here's something I want to thank you for, which I don't know that is your sense of humor and your posts on Facebook saved me. Like,
really?
I will be having the worst day. You have such a really dry sense of humor, and the stuff you post really just, I will be laughing out loud at stuff, and like, thank you, Rania, for posting this. So thank you for your awesome sense of humor, which if people are not following you on social media, that's another benefit, is your great sense of humor. So thank you for that.
It's not easy. It's not easy getting up early every morning and hunting for memes.
It's a full-time job, I'm sure. I am sure. And I count on you, and there's like a couple of other people I follow that just, the memes make me happy. So thank you for your hard work. And now you're a part of this group that I started, called the Manat Dancers Collective. And I'm really happy to have you as part of that. For those of you who don't know, those really wonderful graphics that we put out with the dancer's picture and like a little mini bio, Rania donated her time as a graphic artist and put most of those together. with the help of one other person, and I'm grateful to you for that. So thank you.
It was my pleasure.
And I'm happy to have you a part of this group. And we're just kind of getting started and getting things rolling. And do you have anything you want to say about?
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy to be part of the group. That's why I'm like, don't thank me for doing the graphics. That was my honor. I'm so happy. It was, it's a very different perspective when you grow up in the dance. You understand it visually differently, where things that a Western dancer might say are imperfect, you understand as, oh, but she's going with the words, or she's slowing down to convey the emotion or something. It's a different orientation, different framing of the dance. And there's also like the first few Zoom calls we had of just other people. Yeah, my Greek relatives stopped speaking to me when my videos came out.
Wow.
I had shamed the family name. They're a very religious family. And, basically what they said was that, John the Baptist was beheaded because of a belly dancer. So, and there are other members of the group that, the same thing. The father, won't speak to them. And we, Panayota, of course, too, has struggles between being a dancer and maintaining her place in the family. And we grow up with, the family comes first, right? So that's huge. If your family doesn't approve of something, it's huge. So just to have the camaraderie, first of all, of people who grew up with the dance and struggle with the same cultural pros and cons in terms of attitudes towards the dance. Like everyone loves the dance, but as long as it's not your daughter or your sister that's doing it, right?
Right.
But the other thing is, I've been dancing for like 30 years, and I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of. Right. Let me give you an example.
Please.
I met somebody that said, "Oh, I've been taking belly dance classes for 2 years, and we do all kinds of events." And she showed me a picture of her troupe, and it was tribal. And I go, "Oh, cool, it's tribal." No, it's not. It's belly dance. And I go, "Right, it's tribal belly dance." No, it's belly dance.
No.
So, and then I'm at a Middle Eastern place, and the owner said, my daughter had a wedding, and we hired this belly dance troupe, and they showed up, and it was tribal, and they were dancing to Pakistani music at an Egyptian Christian wedding. And then she showed me the picture, and it was that true.
Oh.
So there are teachers that are saying, well, this is belly dance, without saying this is a certain type of belly dance, and there are other types, right? If you go take ballet and you say, I want to change this and I want to add flamenco and I want to change the costuming and the music, you wouldn't say this is a presentation of ballet. You would say this is a ballet flamenco fusion. But somehow with belly dance, people feel that they can change it without hearkening back to the origin, without specifying that there are different genres. So, imagine the people at this Egyptian wedding. For 5,000 years, the shamadan was invented because there wasn't electric light in the street, and the dancer was lighting the path for the bride and groom, So for years they've been seeing belly dance, and someone says this is belly dance, but that's not what their recollection is. And I feel like our group is just a little reminder that, hey, when you perform for Middle Eastern people, it means something else to them. And if you're going to change it, you might want to specify it or call it something else. Don't forget about the 5,000 years. Go ahead and change it. Add ballet, add flamenco, add jazz. It's all great, but there are people that might not know the difference. Right? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And you know what I think along those lines is that people or dancers are so far removed. Like you have a background, right? you grew up with belly dance, you started studying early in your life, as did I, as did many of the Manat dancers. And even like the first generation of American belly dancers who learned belly dance within the culture, dancing in a nightclub or dancing at church festivals among people of the culture. And so they developed, even as American dancers, a vocabulary and a dance form that is close to the culture. But there's been so many more dancers that only learn from videos or learn from a teacher who's only been teaching for a little while, and they themselves don't know the history. So it gets passed and passed and passed and passed to I would imagine that those dancers don't even know that what they're doing is not belly dance. They don't even know. So like, how do you? We expect that they're going to call it the right thing, but they don't know that what they're doing is not the right thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, and it may be the right thing. It's just not the traditional thing.
The truth. Yeah, exactly.
You have, so the dance has branched off into so many different beautiful factions. I mean, I love tribal fusion, all these things are amazing. But if I book a wedding, I say, what nationality is the bride and groom? Are there guests there from another? Should I include like some Lebanese music? What kind of, who am I performing from? What do they want to see? Right? If you forget that part, that it means something to people.
Yeah.
One of my first dancers that I saw when I started studying, I was underage and I snuck into a club in New York, and the place filled up. I got there early and the place was packed. There was no room. And these three guys said, "Can we sit with you? There's no more seats." And I was at a four top. So I said, "Sure." And they said, "We follow this dancer anywhere she goes." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because she reminds us of back home."
Yeah.
So just remember that if you're performing for a Middle Eastern audience, you're carrying that responsibility of reminding them, connecting them with their culture. That's all. I'm so proud to be part of the Manat group, because I feel like we're saying, hey, just remember that this has cultural significance and meaning to people. In how many countries are there in the Middle East? 19,
Too many,
20, over 5,000 years. There's some deep-rooted, warm feelings of home involved.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I put this group together, because we have work to do. I mean, we have that camaraderie of, we need to be able to collaborate and communicate with dancers who have similar experiences. But we have a job to do. And my goal, I've always said that I will be the anchor. Like, fusion is great, and doing different things is great. I'm not against that. But someone has to be the anchor. And this group for me is that, being the anchor and reminding people of that connection between the dance and the cultures of origin. So I'm honored to have you as part of it, and it's always
I'm
great.
so happy to be part of it. It's an indescribable feeling.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm sad in a way, because I have so many ideas and so much I want to do, and just not enough time. So it's been slow, but we do have some great things that are going to be coming, for the general dance community soon. So please don't give up on us. We are out here. We are going to be doing things. So
You're committed.
I have a day job that takes up a lot of my time. What have we not talked about that you want to bring up? I mean, we're in an hour and 10 minutes now, so we'll kind of start wrapping it up.
Gosh, I mean, I can't think of any.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
And I'm sure that there's things we could continue to talk about for hours and hours and hours. do you have any, well, you talked a little bit about events that you have coming up and people can email you. Maybe if you could give me your email, I can put it in the description, or people can reach you through your social media.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, or it's Rania at raniabellydance.com.
Oh, that's easy enough. Rania at raniabellydance.com. How do you want to be remembered as a dancer and an artist? Like, what do you feel like 100 years from now, people look back and go, that dancer, Rania?
Yeah. I know I'm not or never was the best dancer, but I feel like I was the right candidate to merge, basic belly dance with fitness
Mm,
and bring it to the mass market. And a lot of people were inspired. A lot of people saw those videos and never heard of belly dancing. And I didn't realize that until about 10 years later, where I'd be backstage with now rising stars that say, "Oh, I was a house mom, and I found your videos, and now I'm a professional dancer." So I would like to be remembered as someone who took a risk and put together something that was palatable to the common denominator of the mass market of the American consumer, and it ended up being international. And there was a lot of static from the community, like it's not advanced enough, it's not this, it's not that. It couldn't have been anything more than it was, or it wouldn't have made it out there. And I would hope that people appreciate, and I did, make sure to include different styles of dance, and I would just like to be remembered as that little place in history of dance.
and I think it's an important one. And I'm really excited that you're doing this fitness program. I'm looking forward to that, because I think there's also a lot of dancers out there teaching belly dance fitness that maybe don't have an extensive fitness background. So, you'll be cleaning up a lot of that as well with your program. Because, people always, like, I'm not that dancer. I'm obviously not the fitness dancer. Like, my approach is like the natural feeling and, home, what I call a home dancer style. And people always ask me, like, am I going to get really skinny from belly dance? And I'm like, no, not taking my class, maybe taking Rania's class, but not mine. So maybe even for myself, I can start to incorporate some of that fitness side of it.
Well, even when teaching, when you take a yoga class, the instructor will say, make sure you're positioned this way, or this might happen.
Mm-hmm.
So even in just teaching regular belly dance instructional classes, to be able to teach and address, if your position is this way, it might put pressure on this lower lumbar spine, or something, to just have that vocabulary in conjunction, in coordination with what moves, I think is beneficial, whether or not you pursue the fitness aspect.
That's a great point. And thank you for doing that. You have to keep me posted so we can spread the word and get it out there. It's been really a pleasure getting to know more about you, because even though I've known you for years and years, we've never talked about this stuff as deeply as we have today. And again, I appreciate you and all that you do, and your contribution to the Manat Dancers Collective. And I think we're going to get a chance to do this more. So if you're out there and you have any last questions as I'm wrapping up, this is your chance. So for those watching live and those who will watch the recording of this, hopefully you find this a valuable, educational experience. And we would appreciate that you spread the word, share the video, like, comment, and so on and so forth. We have a lot more coming. So every once a week, I'm doing an interview with a different dancer from the collective. So you get to learn the different perspectives of dancers from throughout the Manat region. So Lori says, inspiring topic, fitness, wellness, and belly dance, especially during this unusual pandemic. Absolutely. Thank you guys for your comments and your questions. So thank you, Rania.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and many more projects with you, hopefully.
Inshallah. And continued happiness, health, and dancing to you on the East Coast. Come and visit.
I will.
We miss you.
I might move back. I still have my place there. I can't decide.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Maybe if you come and visit, you'll decide. That would be great.
Yes, there we go. Well, there's Shimmy Shakedown 2022.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to that.
I think it's April 2022. So I'll definitely be there for that, if not sooner.
Hopefully, you know, it continues to go well and we can continue to have our events in person again. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support. Thank you, Rania. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you at the next Live with Roxxanne.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Rania, hold on for 1 minute. I'm going to stop.